Hey there, it's Olivia Savannah here from Olivia's Catastrophe, and I am here to open up a vlog. I am going to be vlogging my experience reading some graphic novels. I'm going to be reading big books this month, and I thought it would be really fun to break it up with reading some graphic novels in between, just to palette cleanse a little bit. I also really wanted to vlog my graphic novel experience because then I can give you flip throughs and you can see a bit of the artwork, because I feel like artwork is something that's very essential when it comes to choosing if you want to pick up a graphic novel or not. And if you're shopping online or internationally, maybe you can't flip through the book physically yourself in a shop. So that's why I started this vlog, and I've actually already started to read Swamp Thing by Maggie Stiefvater, and it's illustrated by Beem. And this one is about these two brothers who go and stay with their cousins for a summer, and one of them is very much into plants and one of them is very antisocial while the other is incredibly social, these twins, and something happens at this swamp and it's all about what happened that summer by the swamp. So I'm halfway through this one already, and I have to say the storyline is moving incredibly slowly. We've met the two characters, they're in the place where things are going to go down, but nothing has gone down yet. I like the characters well enough. I don't particularly feel an affinity to the artwork style, or I don't feel a particular affinity to the characters, but I'm enjoying the story well enough, and I think it'll be interesting to see where it goes. I finished reading Swamp Thing by Maggie Stiefvater, and unfortunately this was just not the graphic novel for me. I didn't really like it. I didn't really like our main character. We've got the set of twins, and there's one twin who is the main character, but I unfortunately did not like him, and I found him to just be so frustrating when the other twin is trying so hard to include him and be inclusive of him. And so I liked the twin that was the secondary character more than the one that we follow in the book. I also think the romance moved quite a bit too fast for my liking, and I wasn't very much invested in that. But then the story finally started to pick up. I mentioned it being slow and not much having happened, but towards the end it finally started to pick up and things began to go down, and then it stopped. The story just ended. It didn't give me any answers, it didn't give me anything exciting, and that was the biggest disappointment, the fact that it ended so abruptly. So unfortunately this wasn't the graphic novel for me. Hello, so I've been reading, and I just started reading Quarantine Comix by Rachael, which is a comic that she wrote while she was in quarantine, and it's about her everyday experiences in quarantine, a little bit beforehand and what's going on now, and I'm really enjoying this. I find it to be very relatable, and the artwork is simple, but I feel like the fact that it's just so relatable and easy reading is what really makes it shine. And it's doing a very good job of showing how much you learn to appreciate the small joys in life and those small beautiful moments and things that we've taken for granted while in quarantine. But it's also showing some of her depressive moments, some of those down moments, those hard-hitting moments that were really difficult to balance in quarantine. So definitely be wary going into this if you're still struggling with those emotions, but I think it's a beautiful mix of the highs and the lows of the experience. I look a little bit like a sailor today, but I'm here to tell you that I finished reading Quarantine Comix by Rachael, and I really enjoyed this. I just found it so relatable and just so believable, and even though it didn't have a distinct beginning or ending and it was more so just occurrences in her life throughout quarantine, it was just really enjoyable to read, especially as I'm going through a little bit of a slump at the moment. I really liked how every now and again there was a really brightly coloured page. That was a lovely effect, along with all the black and white comics. I don't really have much more to add from what I said before. I do recommend this comic. Hello, it's quite a while later, but I'm back to return to this vlog and kind of read some more graphic novels. So I started reading Monstress Volume 4 by Marjorie and Takeda, and I'm about halfway through, so I've actually read quite a bit of this one, and it's been a long time since I've read this series. So it's been a while since I read Volume 3, but I was surprised by how much immediately came back to me, and I remembered what happened all in the last few volumes when I started reading this one. So it's definitely easy to jump right back into, and one of my favourite things about this graphic novel series so far is the artwork. It's absolutely stunning. It's the best graphic novel artwork I've seen yet, and I'm a bit anxious to share some of the artwork with you just because I don't want to spoil you in any way, and I'm very aware that graphic novels can give you visual spoilers. So I'm just going to be showing you the chapter title pages, which are in and of themselves already stunning and already give you a good taste for how detailed and beautiful the artwork can be. Another thing that I really like about this graphic novel is the lettering, and I think the lettering in graphic novels is not usually something that stands out to me, but because we've got different languages in this one and we've got different types of characters getting different kinds of bubbles and lettering, I really like that. I think it suits their characters, but it also suits what they're doing, and I just appreciate that small detail. For the story itself, I have to admit, we've got a main character. You can see her on the front here. She is the main character throughout all of them, but I have to say her storyline is not the most interesting in this one so far. I'm more so interested in some of the secondary character storylines, and in the beginning you're definitely following Micah the most, but now in these later volumes you start to follow some other characters with a bit more detail, and you get a bit more of their backstories and their motivations as well, and that is definitely intriguing me, and I'm very much invested in all of these side characters more than Micah's story, but nonetheless I can see how Micah's story is going to become still relevant and important in this volume too. Another thing I really like about this graphic novel series is that it's got a lot of representation, and because it's a graphic novel, that representation is very visual, it's very on the page, and that can be so exciting to see as well. And overall I just really like this series. The first volumes can be, well, let's just say the first volume can be a bit confusing diving in because there's so much happening, but at this point in the series I know and understand everything that's happening, and I really enjoy it. I actually think it's probably, I don't want to say it's my favourite graphic novel series because I tend to just enjoy a lot of the graphic novels that I read, but it's really high up there. So I just finished reading Monstress Volume 4, and I really enjoyed this volume. The world and everything has come together. Finally, there's no inkling of confusion whatsoever. I know that the beginning of the series is a bit confusing, and then there's so much that we don't know as we move forward, but I feel like we know pretty much everything that's at play here except for one thing, which will definitely piece itself together. The story's just accumulating so effectively. I can clearly see the direction that the authors and the creators and the artists are heading towards, and I cannot wait until we get there. I'm so excited for volume 5 from the way that this ended, and just like the rest of the people who like this series, I've now fallen for Kipper. I really like her character, but there's also some other characters who have just completely stolen my heart, and I'm so invested in all of them. Really love this graphic novel series. Can't wait till I can pick up volume 5 and see where everything's going to go next. Even characters that I didn't think I would be endeared towards, I am now endeared towards. I think this one got a little bit slow with Micah's storyline. It was a lot of information, and because it was so much information it got a little bit less exciting, but I think it was necessary for where the story is going to go next. Hello, I've started another graphic novel and I'm halfway through. I actually raced through this because with Monstrous it took me much longer to read it, and I think that's because the artwork is just so intricate and beautiful and detailed that I felt the need to take my time perusing the images, really appreciating all of the wonderful art that the artist had done, as well as read the text. But in this one, which is March by John Lewis, Andrew Aydin and Nate Powell, I can get through it much quicker, and I'm going to explain why. But before I do that, let's get down to the synopsis. So this one is basically John Lewis reflecting on his life and talking about how he grew up and how he ended up where he did with the protests and the civil rights movement and his participation in that. But it's also set in the present day when President Barack Obama is just about to get inaugurated, and it's kind of bouncing between the present and the past with a big focus on the past. And I'm halfway through the first volume and we're still very much looking at his childhood, but this is a graphic novel series, so there are 2 more volumes after this, and while this one is the slimmest, the next one doubles in size, and then the third one is 3 times as big as this one, so I definitely think he's got a lot to say. But in this first one we're really looking at his childhood and how he was as a child, and his personality led to him being driven towards protest, and how he saw the the unfairness of segregation and was wanting to do something about it. And I'm really enjoying this one. I think it's just so good to learn from John Lewis himself and hear his own story, and I like that a graphic novel is the way that this is being done, because it's just so visual and is open to people who struggle a bit more with reading, and they can still get his story told from his perspective. And the artwork in this one is all in black and white. Again, in the next clip I'll have a flip through so you can see the black and white art. And I like that it is done in black and white. I think it suits the story. I think it suits the segregationist time and message that this is talking about racism, and it also just plays with shadows very well. And while the artwork is not as intricate as Monstress, I do think it suits the story nonetheless and is very fitting. It's not about the beauty of what's happening, it's about the rawness and the pain and the suffering. So I definitely feel like the artwork suits it, but it does mean it's artwork that I can flip through a bit faster because I understand the pictures and grasp everything within the imagery very quickly. So the first one that I want to wrap up here is March. I've finished reading this graphic novel and I really loved it. The ending just had me so emotional. Now the only thing that I would say is bad about this graphic novel is that when it comes to inconsequential words, they're very tiny. So if there's a big crowd and everybody in the crowd is saying something but it doesn't really matter what they're saying, the speech bubble is very small and the words are very small, so you can't really read it unless you're really looking closely. And as someone who likes to read all of the words, that was a bit of a struggle for me. You don't need to read that text, it's all stuff that you can just ignore, but as someone who likes to read every single word, it was a bit frustrating. But that aside, I really liked this. I think it did a good build up to where it ended, and I really liked how it showed that when it came to the civil rights movement, it was not whites versus black, which is a misconception that some people have, but it's racist versus anti-racist. And I liked how it showed, you know, the community as a whole coming together. It really showed how the movement was about the community. And while the book does spotlight some of the big names that really did contribute a lot, it also takes the time to pay attention to the smaller names who contributed significantly but aren't world famous after the civil rights movement, but then also emphasizes how it's everyone who's boycotting, like all those people coming together for the same cause, that is really what made such a huge impact and forced the hands of so many people. I thought it was fantastic. It was brilliantly done. And a note that I should have realized is that John Lewis was really inspired to get involved with the civil rights movement because of a comic, and then he's made, you know, his own comic, his own graphic novel to help inspire more people towards activism. So I really liked how it all felt full circle like that. I'm very much looking forward to getting to volume 2 very soon. I then also read straight through, all the way through because it's quite short, Saga volume 3, and in this one I felt a bit mixed at the beginning, and then at the end I really liked it, which is why I didn't update you halfway through. So first of all, let me tell you what this book is about. The first one follows these people who are in love, and there's a war going on in this galaxy, and these two people are from opposing sides of the war, but they fall in love and have a child, and now everyone is out to get them and they are fugitives. And that's what this book is about, this graphic novel series is about. But in the third volume I feel like things got very slow and nothing was really happening that was of significance for the first half of it. So I was just reading along and I was fine, and I didn't have any opinions to give you, so I didn't give an update. But then the second half happened and I realized, this is heavy so I'm putting it down, I realized that I now care about all of the characters. I care about all of the characters on the different sides of the war, and all of their motivations feel well fleshed out to me. Maybe I don't agree with their motivations, but I can see where they're coming from, which means I don't want anybody to die, but everybody is out there to fight and kill each other, which means people are going to die regardless of whether I want them to or not. So it gives the graphic novel high stakes, and the ending was very exciting. A lot was happening and unfolding, and I was very much here for it. I also have two favorite characters at the moment who I really like. One of them is called Gwendolyn, and the other one is the main character, the female main character in the romantic pair. I forget what her name is because I'm bad at character names. I'm going to give you a flip through of volume 1 rather than a flip through of volume 3 because I really don't want to spoil anything. going to be ending the vlog here. I think I've read quite a few graphic novels this month and it's been a lot of fun to just take my reading a bit easier, a bit slower than last month, and dive into some beautiful and wonderful graphic novels. I hope you really enjoyed this vlog, and please let me know in the comment section down below, do you have a graphic novel that you really enjoyed that you can recommend to me that I haven't read here, because I am looking for more recommendations now. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button if you want to see more, and don't you forget to hit that notification bell to be updated every time I have a new video. And you know what they say, onwards and upwards. Excelsior!